Regular season's over, and with the regular season ending, CBS Sports did season-long NFL grades. And I want to read you the blurb they wrote for the Lions. And there's 4 words specifically that I know will trigger some people, but I think it's a pretty honest assessment. They gave them an A+.
Only team to get an A+.
They said, incredible season for Detroit. Best in franchise history. Dan Campbell's vision came to life, and the Lions exploded on offense throughout the season and stepped on the gas when they needed it most, winning their final 2 games to secure the division and the 1 seed. It's now Super Bowl or bust for Jared Goff and company.
So what does that mean? What are you saying?
It means if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's a bust. It's a failed season. Dan Campbell himself is not a failure of a person, right? Jared Goff is not a failure of a quarterback, but for a team that's expectation is the Super Bowl, anything less is a failed season.
Is a gigantic disappointment. How can you say it's a failure?
Some people take that as like this threat, like we're threatening to call them a failure.
You're being so negative.
It's a compliment.
The expectations are to win the Super Bowl. Expectations at the beginning of the season were, at a minimum, get back to the NFC Championship game. Others, the minimum was get to the Super Bowl. Others, the minimum from the get-go was win the Super Bowl. And every step along the way, I've been very bullish about this team. 14-3 to start the season when the schedule was revealed. Even with the injuries, I said this is a team that should win the Super Bowl. I understand it's become infinitely harder without Aiden Hutchinson, without Carlton Davis, without some of the other individuals that should be playing on this roster. The number of guys on defense by itself have made this very difficult. And for some, it's forced it into the unlikely category. And for you, it was can win the Super Bowl. I think they still should win the Super Bowl. And now that, and I think it was very important in that article that they said, hey, they stepped on the gas at the right time. People were asking the question, should they play their starters against San Francisco? Yes, step on the gas. Let's go. It's left lane, pedal down, and let's keep on rolling. That led into a Minnesota game where they were clearly the more prepared, better team than Minnesota. They secure the number 1 seed. And most of us said for them to be able to reach the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, they had to get that 1 seed, especially with the injuries. Now the expectation is that they not only make it to the Super Bowl, but they win the damn thing.
And that's not the expectation solely set by us or you as a fan. It's set by the coach. It's set by the general manager. It's set by the sports books. It's set even factoring in the injuries. Understand what we're saying here. They are depleted on defense, and they're still the favorite. They're depleted on defense, and they exceeded even John's lofty 14-win expectations when the schedule came out. Understand that even with the injuries, they went 6-0 in the best division in the history of football. Mm-hmm. So why would the standard not be Super Bowl or bust? Kansas City is Super Bowl or bust. Buffalo, talk about their history of coming up just short. They beat Kansas City and Detroit. For them, only a Super Bowl is a satisfying conclusion. Anything else is failure. These are compliments. I know it doesn't always sound that way, and my tone is not always great, so maybe it's my fault, but Super Bowl or bust, I truly think is a compliment. I think the conflict comes from this, John. Incredible season for Detroit, best in franchise history. Can the best season in franchise history be a disappointment? That is at the crux of this, right? Because if they go to the Super Bowl and lose, they would have had the best season in franchise history, but it's a bust.
Well, and we're not saying that the journey hasn't been fun.
Of course.
It's been a great ride. And we're going to enjoy watching everyone else play this weekend except our Detroit Lions. We are anticipating, and we'll talk about this more, maybe tomorrow, more likely Friday, in regards to who do you want to see in the divisional round as these teams match up this weekend on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Who is it that you want to play? And, I mean, that's going to be fun. The lead up to the divisional game will be fun. The lead up to the NFC Championship game will be fun. The lead up to the Super Bowl, all of it is going to be fun, but it all has to end in a Super Bowl championship for it to be everything that the expectations say it should be.
We had a text today, I think, that nailed it, and they reduced it to a movie quote, and it's a comedy. But it's a movie that the Midday Show uses. Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last.
Shake and bake.
That's what this is. If you're not first, you're last. Ticket text phone calls, we'll collect them. 248-539-9797. Texter says, when did the Lions become the favorite over Philadelphia? John, I can answer it. When they secured home field throughout the NFC playoffs.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. For 31 teams, this is going to be a disappointing season. It is every single year. The level of expectation for the Carolina Panthers was much different than it was for the Green Bay Packers, than it was for the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Ravens, and obviously the Detroit Lions. But there's going to be 31 teams, and half the league, more than half the league, 18 teams, are already disappointed because they're not playing anymore. The fact that the Lions have secured the 1 seed, the fact that they've done everything, and Dan Campbell said, hey, let's work back from what our goal is. That is to win a Super Bowl. How do you get there? Well, you get the 1 seed. You win your division. You make the playoffs. You work your way back, and they have checked all of those boxes. Now they have 1 less game to play than everybody other than Kansas City, and they get to play all of those games at home until they reach the Super Bowl.
I'll give you an example. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They make the Super Bowl and lose. That's not a failed season for them. Right?
Oh, they outkicked their coverage. Last year wasn't a disappointment, even though it felt disappointing.
Disappointing, but it wasn't a disappointing season.
Right. The Lions outkicked their coverage.
And in a lot of ways, I'll use the comparison. It was the 06 Tigers. This run that no one saw coming. Now, 06 for Detroit was even more out of nowhere, but no one looks at making the 06 World Series as a failed season. But then the expectations were raised. And from that moment on, until 2014 when they had their last shot at it, every season was defined by one goal, winning the World Series. They didn't. It forever changed it. It changed the expectations. It changed the outlook. It changed the mentality, and it was good. There was good baseball teams, fun baseball teams. Super Bowl or bust doesn't have to be some negative thing. Some people take it that way. How do you feel about it? CBS Sports said it. They go, this is the best season the Lions have had, incredible season, but it's Super Bowl or bust. 248-539-9797. Texter says, why do you guys do this failure of a season thing? I don't understand the point. Of course, everyone will be sad. What's the point of labeling it a failure? Valenti did the same thing yesterday. I've never understood the conversation. Season's been amazing. Everyone will be sad if we don't win it. Try again next year. It's as simple as that. It's not as simple as that. Next year, they might not have these coordinators. Next year, they're going to play a tougher schedule. They may not have home field throughout the playoffs. This is a golden opportunity. It's okay to acknowledge that.
Right.
And why do people get so offended at the word failure? Like in sports, you succeed or you fail. You win or you lose. These are the options. I don't know why we run from it and act like little scared babies about it.
Right, yeah. There's no gold star like you wanted for the college football playoffs. So it's
watch yourself.
When you have an opportunity to do something special, you're built to do something special, then you either go out and you perform and you live up to those expectations, and if you fall short, what is it called?
Disappointment or
failure.
Failure is a scary word for people. It's the same thing. They're interchangeable.
And I want to put a little bit more positive spin on it in regards to you don't know if you'll be here next year. You don't know if you'll have the 1 seed. You don't know if you also may be better next year
with Aiden.
Right. You put Aiden
another draft
and Zadarius next to on the same defensive line. You get Carlton Davis. People stay a little bit healthier than they are now. Like there's next year will have its own obstacles, its own challenges, and its own set of scenarios. It could be better. We don't know that because we're living in the moment. This is the here and now.
I think the unknown is why people get nervous about beyond just this year, how it's going to look. You're right. Brett Holmes could draft another 3 or 4 All-Pros, put a full season of Aiden Hutchinson in this defense, hire good coordinators because, hey, Dan Campbell's done it once. I'm not telling you this is their only chance to win a Super Bowl. I'm just saying, this is where it is. I mean, this is as good as it gets. 15-2, 1 seed, favorite to win the Super Bowl as the postseason starts.